For the leftovers?
Yeah, so they don't have to do anything really for the next few days. And
Yeah.
a lot of people make turkey, I don't know, soup, stew, yeah, a
Turkey
lot of
soup,
different things.
usually, yeah.
Yeah, so some people take the bones and make broth, or I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's how you make turkey soup.
Yeah, so
Yep.
a lot of people just go right to it, and
Yep.
then they have even more stuff.
More turkey stuff.
Yeah, so and if you were a consumer shopper, you could get turkeys at a discount price this year. So,
Yeah, I did not. So I
well,
I didn't go shopping until the what, 2 days before, I guess.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, so I couldn't get a frozen one, which are the cheapest.
right, right.
So
Well, it's good that there's that time of the year when everybody can come together and have the meal and just enjoy getting ready to shop, which was what this weekend really has been about.
yeah, I've done a little bit myself.
Well, do tell.
Just looking for stuff for my Christmas party that's coming up for the company I work for.
Yeah, you told us a little bit about that and the struggle of trying to decide, but you have come, you have made the choice, I think.
Um, at least I'm closer than, I haven't actually ordered anything yet, but I'm going to probably very soon. And hopefully
Well,
it'll get here on time. So we'll see.
since it's only a couple weeks away, it's probably a good idea to get that done.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where I order it from and what their shipping policies are. So,
Yeah. Well, that is good news. I'm sure it's a relief to be that close to the finish line.
yeah, I'm just happy to have it done so I don't have to think about it anymore.
Well, today is like the first day of December, so we are officially in the Christmas season, the holiday season month. And
Well, that starts Black Friday. So,
yeah, well, it seems like it started November 1, if you ask me, but
yeah.
my birthday month is over, and
Yeah.
yeah, now we've moved into December. And, I always well, I usually will play, long December, and reason to believe maybe this year will be better than the last. So,
Okay.
yeah, you know. So, I mean, there's a lot of December songs, and as you know, Christmas music will be hitting the airwaves nonstop. So,
No, I'm sure it already has.
yeah, Mariah Carey, I think, has come unfrozen, and
Yeah.
so let the Christmas music begin. And I will say, my dial a carol is scheduled to be, I believe, December 12th. I don't know though if that's their closing day or opening day. I'm gonna have to find that out because I call that every year.
Oh, yeah, that's where the college kids
Yes.
sing Christmas carols or something.
Yes, you call them and you can request a carol, or you can just say, pick me out one, and they will do that too. And they'll sing it in their best voice. And some voices are better, than others, but it is the Christmas spirit, they're like, it is fun just to see. I sometimes I ask for specific songs, like before I've called and let you hear
Yeah.
a song, but generally, I just say surprise me, and I'm always like curious to see what they're going to come up with.
Hmm.
So that's a tradition, I'm looking forward to. Just got to find out the dates of that. So,
Yeah. Have you started Christmas shopping?
well,
or
Um,
more Christmas looking?
Christmas looking,
Hmm.
I only decided on one, well, two gifts really.
Hmm.
I have a friend from college that, I send something to, every year that I know where he is.
Oh,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah. And so, I have not mailed that though, but I have decided on that. And then my niece, I have actually ordered her present and, you know, I am like, of course, not going to say what it is, but I,
Right.
I feel like it was a good choice, for her age and such of
Yeah.
thinking, trying to, you have to like put your mind, in the mind of the person you're buying it for, and what would somebody that's a teenager like?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a little bit harder this year now that I'm old, but
Well,
yeah. But I still was able, I think, to make a pretty good choice. So that's, the extent of my Christmas shopping. But I've narrowed down a couple more gifts, I think. I just got to find, like, what is the best one of what I'm going to order.
I see.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I'm thinking there could be something coming my way too. Although I've not heard any mention of it, but
yeah, you never know.
I never know. I've been pretty good this year, I feel like. Just in case Santa's listening.
Well, yeah. So you have your Christmas play coming up?
Yeah, it's actually 2 weeks from this weekend. So, there's three shows in 2 days. So
Oh, wow.
the first show will be at 11 a.m. in Corbin. It's an assisted living facility.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be, a really, I think, interesting and good show. We've never performed there, but I'm looking forward to that. I know the cast is really excited. And then that evening at the depot, we'll open, what was going to be our first show before we added the
Right.
assisted living one. So that's at 7 o'clock. And so the costume contest, we always, have these themed contests. And for that one, it's going to be a character from either a Christmas song, movie, or book. So that does open the door for a lot of creative costumes.
Yeah.
So looking forward to, they really dress up a lot there, they go all out. So I'm really excited to see what the costumes will look like.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a photographer, so they will capture all the moments and we'll share with everyone. And then, we close out the next day at 1:30 in Barberville at the Oven Mitt.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a breakfast kind of brunch, show, which we haven't done. But you can have a Belgian waffle. They're huge, actually, or pancakes, your choice. And
Right.
then scrambled eggs, or I guess eggs anyway, but I would choose scrambled, and bacon. So, most people love bacon. There you
Yeah.
go.
Christmas bacon. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. So, all that. You don't even need dessert,
Yeah.
So that is such a sweet show. And then the ugly Christmas sweater is the costume contest theme there. So, because a lot of people will be coming from church and,
Right. Yeah.
the earlier show. So you don't really want to, like, they don't have time to go get into too much costume. But, everybody wears an ugly Christmas sweater probably, at one point in December. So,
Yeah. I don't really have one. So.
well, if you were to come to the show, we'd make sure that you were properly attired for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's, 2 weeks away. And we may be putting a float for the first time. That's only 1 week away if, we end up, if the weather allows.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. So you're doing a float for the Christmas parade or something in
Yes,
Barberville?
yes, in Barberville. And it's the I Believe in Santa Claus Christmas parade and a lot of floats and, all the things you would see in a parade. So we have the trailer and the decorations, the idea, the cast, all of that.
Right.
What we don't have is the forecast to, we have to make a decision. And based on like a lot of floats could go on no matter, and the parade will go on whether it rains or snows or whatever. But
Right.
we'll have a harp on there and several things that just can't get wet and not really good for the cast either, their costumes and
Right.
you know so we just have to wait a little bit longer to make the official decision of, because the forecast has been crazy, like almost every day. 1 minute it's going to be 40 something, the next it's down to 29, and it's going to snow, not going to snow,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just, so we just have to monitor it and make the best guess we can and hope that, we get to participate because that'll be really fun and team building and a good chance for the community to, see Tri County Mystery Meets and a little preview of at least the costumes of the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you're gonna do that, you better get to it because it's only a week away.
Well, do you know we have bales of hay? There's a lot involved.
Right.
I did not realize, but we have bales of hay are on reserve for us. We have found a garage to starting tomorrow. The trailer will be going to the garage, so we can start decorating really anytime tomorrow.
Well, there you
Um,
go.
yeah, so I'm just thinking it's not going to take that long to put it all together. But when you think that, it's probably going to take like a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking you're probably right in that regard.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's best to really start early.
Yeah. Everything usually takes 3 times longer than you imagine it does. So.
Yeah, like that gravitron that we talked about last week. Can you imagine, like, how long you'd have to start to put that together?
I don't know. They do it pretty quickly. Usually a day or two, it's up. So.
Yeah, they say that, and then you go flying through the air.
That rarely happens.
I don't know. I mean, more and more all the time you see rides falling apart. Just
Right.
saying. You don't want to cut any corners on that. You want to get, good people to
Yeah, what's a
put your
few
grub.
extra bolts?
Yes. Yeah, well, I guess we should have put them all in there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, we got all that to look forward to. And, then really Christmas is just around the corner after that.
Yeah. What do we got? Today's the first. Yeah, only 3, 4 weeks, right?
Yeah. And from the parade time, it's only 10 days. So,
Wow.
well, no, not from the parade time. I'm sorry, from the show time
Yeah,
when our
yeah.
show closes.
Right.
It'll be 10 days. But so, it'll be here before you know it. And then, you start looking forward to the new year. And I've
Yeah.
already referenced a good song for that. So,
Alrighty. Well, so this week's episode is a little different.
yes, it is. It's so is Will Wesley.
Hmm.
We've had him on as a guest before. In fact, last year around this time, we had him for he had a Christmas song coming out.
Right.
And, I believe that he does also have a Christmas album or song coming out this season too.
Hmm.
But we had him as a guest for a different song. And, you know, it's a bittersweet situation because on the one hand, losing someone, I mean, and the holidays is like some of the worst times because you miss, the way, the traditions, and whatever that included them.
Right.
But then, so he's lost his brother,
Hmm.
and, he's written this song in his honor. So, I found that to be, it's just so hard, really, because it's a very enduring thing. I think enduring that he, loved his brother and wrote this song to
Yeah.
honor him, but also that it comes out of a place of sadness, of loss.
Hmm.
And writing personal things, I guess it's always like that, really.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, because personal things are always going to be tied to emotions of some kind.
Yeah, that and there's like I've talked about this before where, I struggle with like how much to reveal, you know. It's really hard to know when to draw the line of what you want to say versus what you can say.
Yeah, and I imagine like the person, a lot of times the person that you're writing about may not even be an active part of your life anymore.
Right.
And so it's not like you can bounce the idea off of them. I mean, like it's different if, let's say, you're writing a song to your child, or your partner or whatever,
Right.
and, that kind of thing. But when you're writing to someone that you're no longer in communication with, and that, in the case for Will, his brother passed away.
Hmm.
So you've got all those emotions, and so his brother passed away from addiction, and that is also like one of those things where, you know, some people would not be comfortable in revealing that or feel like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah, it's
you
difficult for sure.
yeah. I'm sure on the other side of that will be, that it could help someone that maybe is struggling or going through the same type of thing.
Hmm.
So, in that way, you could be thinking about it as, a motivation to help you to write the piece.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll talk to Will and find out.
Well, I mean, what do you find to be like the deciding factor when, you get to those where you're not sure?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I just, I include what I'm comfortable with. And, because I don't like to tell everybody everything and, like, I don't want to put everything out there. Mm.
Because you can't take it back. I mean, that's the thing of it.
Yeah, I mean, once it's out there, and, then you have to live with that part of it. But, I always think about like, okay, well, what if my son reads this, or what if, somebody I know reads this? Would I be happy with them reading it? Or would I feel comfortable with them knowing what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you gotta, I think as a writer, you have to draw the line somewhere when it comes to personal things.
I mean, I think if it's your own experience, how you were feeling, how you made a decision, it's easier to decide, do I want this part of my life or my actions than it is those that involve someone else.
Right, because you never know how they're going to feel about that. So,
right? Or even how it's going to be taken, like
Yeah.
you might write it with one thing in mind and it could, just hit them like totally different. Or
Yeah.
they may remember it totally differently.
Well, they always say there's three sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth.
Well, we try to write the truth, but this is a hard episode, and that the content is hard, but I'm sure that we'll know when we talk with him. But I feel like that the fact that he was able to get through the writing process, put the song out there, I think he's gonna, be at peace with talking about it.
Well, I guess we'll talk to him and find out how it all came about and what happened and, get his thoughts about it.
Yeah, and I do hope, December can be a hard month, holidays can be a hard month. So I do hope that, if there's a listener out there that's having a struggle with addiction or, some problem like that, that, they do listen to this episode and hopefully find some hope.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, let's talk to Will and see what he's got to say.
Well, Will Wesley, I want to welcome you back to Backstory Sessions. It's really good to have you as a guest again. It's always fun to talk with you. But, today we have a little different, a more serious song, I feel like, to talk about. And so the mood of this may be a little different than in the past interviews that we've had.
Yes. Yes, we definitely have a serious tune to talk about today.
And I really want to thank you for, it takes a lot of vulnerability. I feel like to even write your feelings about something so personal. So, let's start with that. Like the title is the first thing that struck me, really. 12 o'clock in Texas. So how I know that you've probably heard from people, how they connect with it. So how I connected with the title is like when my father died, the time, like, for the longest time after the time that they called me and, told me that he died, that time, like every night, for the longest, that was just that time was frozen for me. So when I read 12 o'clock in Texas, I could relate to the feeling of time. So tell us about, what does it mean in terms of the experience with you?
The title, that's a very good question, because the title of 12 o'clock in Texas has been asked to me a lot because, as many know, it's about the death of my brother. But what a lot of people have asked is being that they were like, well, you and Daniel are from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So why Texas? Why would you write a song about Texas if your brother was from here? Well, that's actually one of the most interesting questions, because the truth of it is the song took place in the writing a week after these events. Because what happened was I didn't really know how to deal with the loss and the grief of all that. So what I did was I just kept working. And we went into Texas to go onto a tour. We were in the Galveston area. And one night, after I think the second show on the tour, we were driving back to our hotel, and it was a clear night. There was no rain, there was no thunder, there was nothing. But all of a sudden, a gale force wind come across the road, and nearly it felt like it was going to knock the vehicle off the road. And my bandmate at the time had looked at me. He's like, "Man, that's bizarre." He said, well, the weather is clear. And I looked at him, and I was just said without thinking, I said, well, that was the spirit of my brother saying goodbye. And I looked at the time, and it was like 12:30 at night. Well, that never left my mind all night long. I just kept tossing and turning and thinking about that. And the next morning, I began to pen the lyrics. to what would become 12 o'clock in Texas, which was talking about everything that was happening. And if you listen to the lyrics, that's how it starts. It says a Texas wind is blowing.
Yeah.
Because really the beginning inspiration was to try to write a song about my brother and my feelings, but I started writing about what was going on around me at the time. And that's how 12 o'clock in Texas came to be.
Well, that is very interesting because, I wondered about that. So for the event, how did you find out about your brother's passing?
When I found out about Dan's overdose, it was probably at the worst time. I was performing here in town where I live, and I got a phone call through I got a phone call at right as the gig had ended, and it was my father, and he was informing me that my brother was found dead in a hotel room. And having to get through this crowd and these people and trying to kind of, get out of this environment to try to, because I've always been the kind of artist that I divide myself from my personal life. Like, I have my artistry and who I am on a stage and who I am at home. And I felt like in this moment, those two worlds were combined. And I felt very, very vulnerably just kind of put out there in this moment. And that was the first time I'd found out about Daniel's death, was when my dad called me. I was on a show.
Did you anticipate at all that, that this might be a possibility?
That's a wonderful question, because to be honest with you, I try to be as candid as I can about this subject, and I had feared that this day would come. I didn't know for sure, and I'd always had hopes that Dan would find a way to get off of drugs, and I even had thoughts of him as an older person and that he made it through. But as we all know, when you're dealing with drugs and addiction, there are no fairy tale endings. And unfortunately, in this case, it was just a tragic ending. It was a tragic ending to a loved brother, but a life cut well too short.
So what was life like with you growing up with your brother?
That was a very interesting way of putting it for me. Is me and Dan actually were quite innocent as kids. I mean, we lived a very innocent life. We lived in Baker, Louisiana, and we were very into sports as kids. When I was a very little kid, baseball, football. We hung around the neighborhood, hung out with a lot of our friends. Dan was always a very, very smart kid and very intelligent guy. And we spent just times, growing up together in a more innocent way. And then we come together more as adults, because Dan had moved out of our home well before I did. So there was kind of a period where we're brothers. We always talked. But when he got off on addiction really bad is when we really bonded again. Me, I've never had experience with heavy drugs like that. I've never done it. I drank, but I've never done that. But when he got really bad off on this, he lost his wife, he lost his kids, he lost his job where he was making a lot of money. And basically it had gotten so bad that he was roadieing for my group just to make enough money to get by at that time. And we bonded over this. I was really trying to help him the best I could. So there's really two different chapters of how innocent we were as kids, and then being exposed to the life that he was struggling with as adults.
So in the song, how, were there certain images that you wanted to bring out about him? And if so, how did you go about that lyrically?
Well, there are several lyrics in the song that are targeted straight towards Daniel, in the sense, one of the lines being obviously, Jack without the Daniel is a drink I drink alone. Meaning, after Daniel's death, that was kind of a custom back in the years when he was alive and we were touring, that after the show we would, have a shot of Jack Daniels or something like that. And going back to the writing process, I was writing it with a bandmate and a producer of mine, and we were stuck. We'd had all these lyrics, and it was coming together fine, but we just could not come up with this one lyric. And I started thinking about the tradition of how our shows would end and how Dan was always the one who would bring the shots to the band at the end of the night. And we would cheers and we'd be done. And I started thinking, Dan's never going to be around to do that anymore, and that's where the lyric Jack without the Daniel is a drink I drink alone. But there are also more targeted lyrics towards Daniel in that song. But I wanted to create a song that was universal to everyone, but also spoke directly about my grief as well. One of those lyrics is the rain inside of me. It never goes away. It never leaves. There's something that I've never told anyone about that lyric, but my brother told me that when we were actually on our back porch one evening, and he was talking about his addiction, and we had butted heads about it. I was trying to get him to get off of drugs, and it felt like nothing was working. So I figured telling him maybe if we don't work together, that would be the best. And I remember him telling me that this is all he had. And he was like, it's kind of like it's always raining inside of me. It never goes away, And I remembered that in the writing because I felt in a very kind of reversed way that the way he felt then was the way I feel now, because he died of this addiction. And now I feel like the rain inside of me never goes away or never leaves. So those lyrics are the two most targeted towards Daniel in the song 12 O'Clock in Texas.
Wow. That is a really interesting part of the story of that song lyric. So musically, did you know as you started to write, did you have a certain tempo or feel for how you thought, or I know you said the lyrics like the wind and that kind of thing started you on the thinking, but did a melody come with it then, or did you finish the lyrics and then work on the music later?
Well, in the case of this particular tune, I actually wrote the guitar work and the composition relatively fast. It just came out of me. The intro, the way the song intros with just an acoustic guitar and playing more in a finger picking pattern. I just woke up and wrote that. It literally took me maybe 5 to 10 minutes of writing before this whole song, in terms of the instrument, was finished. It was the lyrics that actually gave me more of a challenge, because I wrote a first draft of 12 O'Clock in Texas that was originally saying brothers should never end this way. And once I got it into the room and got with my producer, we hashed it out and kept working on it until eventually we turned it to 12 O'Clock in Texas. So I would have to say that the biggest challenge of the writing on this particular piece was the lyrics and trying to create a collaboration between what I'm currently seeing around me in lyrics and also what I've been feeling for quite some time. And I feel like we expressed that the best through the collaboration of this song and the music video. The music video is really the storyteller of the actual story of what happened.
Did you find the music video difficult, reliving, the story more so than the song, or did all of it bring back? I know you would have to revisit it in order to write about it. And even if you're not writing, as you pointed out, it never goes away. So I'm sure you revisit it all the time. But, visually seeing it, I guess, acted out, was that difficult more so than writing the lyrics?
It they both hit me very hard in their own way. The lyrics hit me in the aspect of, it seems like performing the song at first was very difficult, very emotional in that sense. But seeing the crowd's reaction to the actual song live and the standing ovations we've been getting and how it's helping people has become easier and easier the more I performed it, just because I'm realizing it's helping people. But I do have to be honest that the recording of the music video was very difficult, and it was shrouded in, the word I would use is the recording of this music video was just shrouded in something that almost felt supernatural, and I'll explain that. I wanted to be as authentic with this video as I could. I wanted, because if you try to alter the story, or you try to make it a brighter story, I feel like not only are you not telling the honesty and the darkness of what happened, but I feel like people will not relate to it as much, because there's a lot of people out there who, if you've been through something like that, you know what a dark side of life it can bring and reveal. So we tried on this video to be very, very honest, in the sense of, I even visited the hotel where my brother overdosed. Now, we did not film in that room. That was just too much. I couldn't do it. But we did find a hotel that would allow us to reenact the scene as I was told. And if you watch the video, you will see walking into this room to reveal someone was overdosed, but also how it hit me at this time. So we went out of our way to be as blatantly honest with this video as we could. But the supernatural aspect of it that I was speaking about was, I was in the hotel with my director and my band at the time of recording it, and I got to tell you, just like a gale force wind came over the road, the most oddly strange storm just came out of nowhere. And if you watch this music video, you will see it. That was originally not written in the script of 12 O'Clock in Texas, to be in the rain. But this rainstorm came so strong out of nowhere that me and the director looked at each other, and I said, we're going to film this storm. And we just filmed scenes of me standing in this rain, which became a very big template in this video. And for that to happen so naturally, to this day, me or Jordan Fontenot, the director, cannot describe how bizarre that was, and how just it happened so naturally. It was almost supernatural.
Well, even tying it in, to the wind, and like how the lyrics, started in Texas. That's really very interesting. Then it's weather related events that just seem to happen. Do you have a belief or feeling like, of your brother in some way, like reacting or reaching out, or what's your belief about that? Do you feel that sometimes with these events that are odd?
Yeah, to be honest about that, I think when a person close to you dies, you're always looking and wanting to find some kind of connection with them in the afterlife. I think everyone wants to feel like they moved on. I think everyone wants to feel like they're there and they're all right. In the case of Daniel, I cannot say that in my waking life I've had any kind of, him reaching out or anything of that magnitude. He's just gone. But I will say that I have dreamed of him very much. I've dreamed of him in many powerful dreams. And I do believe that my brother lives on, and I do believe that he's free of those addictions, and I do believe that there is a God out there, and he can look past our shortcomings to bring us and grant us forgiveness. And I do believe that. Yes, I do, on a spiritual level, believe that despite the shortcomings that we have in life, even if it's addiction or whatever it is, we can find forgiveness. And I do believe his addictions and struggles are over in the afterlife. I do believe that, yes.
So Matt, this is, a very touching story and difficult, writing topic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Will, I was just wondering. I mean, I have a story as well. I was just wondering, like, did you struggle with, like, how much of it to tell and, like, how far to go with it?
It's a wonderful question, Matt. And yes, I did. Look, when a person gets addicted to something as graphically as my brother did, and I use the word graphically because it gets about as bad as it's going to get, man. And
Hmm.
and I tell people many times that addiction doesn't just affect the ones who are addicted; it affects the ones who love the ones who are addicted. And in this case, I'm gonna tell you, I had to leave a lot out of this story because Daniel got to a very, very dark place. He got to a place where he was unrecognizable to the person he used to be. And a kind of hopelessness just came over him that it almost, the part that you don't hear in the song is it was almost like he was dead months before his death came. He just felt like there was nothing to live for. He felt, and there is a very big part of this story that I implemented, but I did not tell. If you watch the video, it starts with two brothers back in 1995, and one brother picks up a movie coin from the sand and he hands it to his other brother, and we cut to the present where there's a coin in the hand of my dead brother, and that is a sobriety coin.
Hmm.
The story that I did not tell about that sobriety coin, but you see me messing with it the whole video, twirling it in my hands, eventually throwing it into a river just to have what is perceived as the spirit of my brother handing it back to me. The true story behind the sobriety coin was that for many, a sobriety coin is a symbolism of hope and a new beginning, a new chapter of sobriety. But for me, that sobriety coin was nothing more than a symbolism of a broken system and a broken person that
Hmm.
couldn't get the help that he needed. And that's why you see me playing and holding this sobriety coin the whole video until eventually throwing it into the water just to have the spirit of your brother hand it back to you. And so these symbolisms are shrouded throughout the 12 o'clock in Texas video. If you look on my brother's arm at the beginning of the video when it shows him in the room dead, there's a black tourniquet around his arm. But when he hands the coin back at the end of the video, there's a white tourniquet trying to really emphasize the notation that he is whole again. He's clean. He's spiritually whole again. But there are parts of this story that you just don't put in videos or in the words. The how far someone can sink down into their own darkness and the things that he did when under the influence of these drugs. I mean, Daniel was not a saint. He got so bad off. He robbed. He did everything. He went to jail. He just had a very dark end to what could have been a very bright story. And that's a very wonderful question that you ask it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I lived with someone who was addicted for 10 years, and I went through all the anger and
Yeah.
pain and, sadness and all of that, before that relationship ended. And I can relate to a lot of what you're saying because I lived through it.
Well, I
And
am sorry that you went through that. I really am.
yeah, and I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, I can't imagine. I have three older brothers, and we're not that close, but losing a family member like that, I'm sure, is very difficult.
Yes.
So, what? I mean, we were talking just briefly before we started about some of the responses of people who have heard the song and, seen you play it live and stuff like that. What have been some of the responses that you've gotten? Or,
I think the responses of the people have been one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my career. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Matt, a lot of people are dealing with this in our country.
Mhm.
A lot of people are dealing with addiction or children that are addicted. Let's be honest, man. We got a problem in this country. It's coming in over the borders. It's coming in everywhere. And I'm not a political fella, and I don't get too political in my music, but I'm speaking more on the subject of humanity. We
Mhm.
have a drug problem in this country. And what I've been getting from the fans and the friends and the supporters who's heard the song is they've been sharing their stories of loss. Because the way this story is working is it's not just about me and my brother. It's a universal thing, and people are sharing their stories of loss. They're able to express. It's almost like the kid in the class who speaks up first, and then everyone else speaks up too.
Yeah.
People are beginning to talk about it. They're beginning to expose it. They're beginning to tell what happened to their sons, their wives, their husbands. And it's almost like this song is a large therapy session for the world around. And I've been getting a lot of people write me personally, show up at shows, and talk about how the song is helping them to heal from their wounds. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to try to expose this dark subject so that maybe the light will shine in people's lives again.
What do you think Daniel would say about the song? Do you think he'd be happy with it, or do you think he'd be like, "Oh man, what the hell are you talking about all that stuff for?" What do you think?
I think if Daniel heard the song sober and straight, he would be moved by it, and he would have loved the way the music was written on it. If he was under the influence, he would probably tell you that he's fine and that there's no sense to even talk about that. Everybody's overreacting.
Oh, wine.
That would just be how he would react to it.
Yeah. All right, Kat, I'll let you ask one more question before we let Will go.
Oh, one more is always hard. So, having written the song now and having it released and getting, some accomplished, I'm sure, of what you hoped it would. I mean, it's just been released, so you have a short time, but was the writing of it therapeutic for you?
Yes, the writing of the song initially was very therapeutic for me because, very similar to the video, if you see me in the video at the end of this song, I'm literally arguing at the grave of my brother. And that in itself is expressing the therapy that I went through. Because, when someone you love dies like that, you never really get the closure of saying goodbye. The last words between me and my brother were, "Hey, man, why don't you come hang out with me?" And he said, "I got other plans tonight, but we'll do it again real soon." Well, real soon never came. He died that night. And the therapy was to be able to take all the feelings I had and the lack of closure that I had and to put it into a song and put it into a video. And I would have to say that this song has probably been one of my most therapeutic songs to date, yes.
Well, it's certainly, I think, going to be one that many people will relate to, in their own experiences. And hopefully, the people like Daniel that are, filled with the rain, that doesn't go away. Hopefully this song also speaks to them. I mean, we can only hope that there's that part of the audience too that, can turn around their life or, will make it through.
I couldn't agree more. I'm really hopeful that this song will help people around and try to get the word out, and I'm always encouraging anybody out there, if you're struggling with addiction, get help. It's not too late. It's not too late, and you can always find a reason to get clean on those sobers because it will take your life, and I hope that I hope it helps some folks out there, and I hope it really does help shine the light on it. I really do.
Well, thank you, Will. We really appreciate you telling us your story and sharing your thoughts about the song and stuff. And, we'll definitely, again, we say this at the end of every episode with you. Come on back and talk to us again sometime soon.
Well, man, I would love to. I'd love to come back and talk with y'all again. And I want to thank both of you for having me on the show today. It was a very good interview y'all gave, and it was nice to be able to tell the story. So thank y'all for that.